An urgent meeting of energy experts in the European Union to address what could be a crisis in shipments. The bloc's gas supply coordination group set to discuss the impact of the conflict in the Middle East, given uncertainty of passage through the Strait of Hormuz. It's a conduit for some 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas. The European Union typically gets less than 10% of its LNG from Qatar, which has halted production amid attacks on its facilities. But any cut in supplies would mean more competition for what is available. Well, William Denselow reports for CNA Live from Brussels. William, what is Europe hoping to do to secure its supplies of energy?
Well, publicly, we've heard from the European Union saying that there's nothing at the moment to point to a particular problem. But of course, if prices continue to rise globally, this, of course, would be a concern here in Brussels and felt across the European Union. We've heard from Dan Jorgensen, the Energy Commissioner here in Brussels. He says that their priorities are simple: diversification, energy security, and a clean transition. When it comes to that diversification, well, you mentioned that the role Qatar has around 8% of LNG comes to Europe from that nation as of 2025's figures, so somewhat muted. But of course, if there are rising prices, rising competition, especially with nations like Pakistan, India, then that will have knock-on effects for prices. He made those remarks in a meeting with Azerbaijani officials. He said that LNG coming from Azerbaijan will play an increasingly important role for the bloc, currently just 4% of its energy mix. That compared to some 56% of LNG coming from the US. So the EU says at the moment it certainly has its bases covered. But of course, any kind of global shocks will certainly reverberate around Brussels as well.
Well, vulnerability not just on the energy front. Reports of an Iranian-made drone crashing into the UK's military base in Cyprus. European anxieties on that as well.
It's absolutely right. The UK has downplayed the actual impact of that strike and questioned whether this was indeed the intended target. But concerns remain. We've heard from Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President, saying that the security in the Middle East is interwoven with the security of Europe. And that incident in Cyprus, of course, not just a member of the EU, but also holding the rotating presidency of the European Council as well, really shows just how interwoven these security concerns really are. In response, well, we're seeing a diversification when it comes to the response. We know that France has sent its carrier to the Mediterranean. We know the UK, of course, is allowing the US to conduct defensive operations from its bases. On the other hand, though, we've heard a very strong response from Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. He has ruled out the US using any of its bases in the region, and he's in the past rejected what he described as the unilateral actions by Israel and the US. That, of course, has drawn a huge amount of ire from the US president, him even suggesting he'd cut off trade with Spain. So that just shows how sensitive this situation is and how difficult it is for the EU to speak with one unified voice on this topic.
Thanks. Will Denselow there reporting for CNA Live from Brussels.